We want to welcome you guys to L3 Perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glenn Davis. I'm sitting here with my guy, Cameron Macias.
It's your boy, Killer Cam.
What's going on, guys? Hey, we want to welcome you back to the L3 Perspective, where we talk about life, where we talk about love, we talk about leadership. Cam, I'm excited about today's guest, man. Obviously, This is a platform where we like to bring value, and I think that today's guest, him and I go back a little bit. I'll introduce him here in a second. I'm going to toss it to you real quick, and then we'll jump into it.
Hey, y'all, per the usual, we do this for you guys, so, like the podcast, love the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Message us. If there's a guest that you think that we should have on that you believe could bring value, please let us know, because that's the whole reason that we do this. We do it for you guys. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, Glenn, this is your man. So introduce him and let's get rocking.
So guys, let me just do a small introduction and we'll dive into it. This is a brother that I call brother number one, but we were stationed together back in the Netherlands some years back. I won't date us, as we were just talking about age, but so fast forward. He's always been really savvy with money. Yeah. Always kind of had a liking when it comes to the real estate game. And so as a real estate investor, he's out in Florida, Puerto Rican background. We're going to dive into it. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome David Sepulveda. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
It's not raining today in California, so I'm okay with that. It was hailing last week, so I mean, at least now it's kind of standard California weather.
Yeah. How's the weather in Florida?
Oh, good. Oh, man, it's beautiful right now. It's in the 80s. Sun is shining. Man, I can't
chilling, man. He's out there chilling.
You got that Florida swag.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Laid back.
That's what's up. But David, real quick, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, man, and then we'll break it down and we'll talk some real estate stuff, maybe some you can give some tips or whatever. But anyway, I want to toss it over to you.
Yeah, no, first off, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. I was born in Puerto Rico, so, Spanish was my first language. We moved when I was about 2 years old to Jersey. That's where I learned to speak English. Lived in Jersey till I was about 7, 8 years old before we moved down to Southwest Florida, Cape Coral, Florida. For those that don't know where that's at, it's where Hurricane Ian just hit.
Snap.
That puts things into perspective once people understand, that's where you're at. Lived out here till I joined the military, Air Force, when I was about 20 years old. Did the Air Force for 20 years before retiring. Met a lot of great people. That's like Glenn said. That's where he and I met, was while we were stationed in Vocal, the Netherlands. And through that exposure of different mindsets and different backgrounds and different cultures, that's really where I got a chance to expand who I was and how I was. Because prior to that, you get comfortable and you're limited by your current circle. Yeah. So it was nice to join the military, where they kind of force you to interact with people of different backgrounds and different cultures, because that really is what helps you grow, is being in those uncomfortable situations with people that you don't know that are completely different than you. So I did that for 20 years. Then I retired and came back home and continued my passion for real estate, because I found that was the one thing that I enjoyed doing. Because obviously when you're in the military, you grow up, but you don't grow up, right? Because you have that safety net of the military. So I had to figure out, okay, after 20 years of military service, what do I do? What am I going to be when I grow up? And real estate just made a whole lot of sense to me. After reading a bunch of, self-help books and wealth books, it all pointed to real estate. So I said, okay, if that's the way I got to go to get wealthy, then that's what I'm going to do.
Gotcha. You've been in the real estate game for how long?
10 years now, since 2013.
Oh yeah, you saw the COVID, you saw things coming back from 2008. You saw the COVID bubble. Now you're experiencing this.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride. But I think, like anything else, there's market
Oh
cycles
yeah,
to
Mhm.
everything.
100%.
Yeah.
So real estate is no different. The only difference is you actually have a tangible
Hmm.
asset
Mhm.
that is either going to make or
Yeah.
break you.
So I know you mentioned that you were an avid reader. What got you interested in reading those self help books, and you know, like why did you gravitate to towards that particular genre of reading?
Um, well, honestly, I hated school. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the thing that I enjoyed doing. I tried reading other books previously, like
Hmm.
little fantasy
Mhm.
books or just these books that just they're great for entertainment, I guess, but I couldn't get
Gotcha.
into
Yeah.
them. Um, but when I stumbled upon real estate, business, and self help, those resonated
Hmm.
with me, and I just kind of picked one up after another after another. I mean, my library is
Mhm.
huge now, like my home
Right.
library. So it's been a blessing to stumble
Yeah.
upon it totally by
Hmm.
accident.
I hear you. I hear you. Do you have one particular book that kind of like is in your top five?
Um, Man, that's tough. There's so many great books out there. I will say that the book that led me down the path of real estate was the 16% Solution. It is a book that I go back to quite
Hmm.
often. That's what led me down the real estate. But as far as self help, The Four Agreements is another great book
I've
that I go back
now,
to often.
man, I love the houses burning situations where like,
Yeah.
because I've heard a whole bunch about the four agreements. um, Behind you it says
Is
dominate.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Dominate,
that
right?
was our last guest on the
Yeah.
our one of our last guests that we released. You know, he's out in Sacramento, so his name is Nate, but his brand is Dominate.
hmm.
That's what's up.
Gotcha. I actually got that from another real estate book that I was reading. And one of the things that is just to dominate the market, you got to do certain things. You got to be disciplined. You got to be
Hmm.
Yeah,
oriented. You got to have market
yeah.
presence. So it was a good reminder. So I keep it up there just to keep me
Yeah,
grounded in what I have to do to be
I
successful.
love it. I love it.
What was that from? What book was that from? I'm gonna have to use that.
Oh geez, I'll have to send it to you, brother.
You put me on the spot.
Off the top of my head, I don't
Put me on the
recall
spot.
it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's because I read so
Oh, for
many
sure.
books and I get so many things from so many different books. Like right now, I'm currently reading Vivid
Okay.
Vision.
Okay.
Um, that's my current read, and it's just about making sure that you detail
Mhm.
everything to a point where everyone in your company is on board with your
Mm,
vision, right? Because these companies, they have mission
Right.
statements and they have all of these grandeur ideas, but very it's very seldom that you have buy-in from
for
Hmm.
sure.
everyone. So in order to get that buy-in, people have to see the
Great.
vision. They have to be a part of the vision. They have to
Hmm.
buy into the
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. So I have a question. So I have a handful of team members with a Latino background, and they're very prideful when it comes to educating their community on finances. So on that same aspect, like is it important, or why has it been important for you to kind of educate the Latino community on like investments or the real estate game and things like that?
Wow, that is it's important because our people, you know, we get stuck in ruts. We get stuck in limited mindsets, and we get stuck in thinking that we can't do things that's readily available to
Hmm.
everyone. The problem is that we glorify and we're constantly shedding light on things that don't build
Right.
us
Mm,
up. Our community is so used to looking to the athletes,
yeah.
looking to the rappers, and looking to, you know, the
Yeah.
entertainers instead of looking to the people that actually own the
Yeah.
entertainment company, that actually own
Yeah.
the NFL teams, NBA teams, the boxing
Right.
Hmm.
promoters. So for me, it's always been like, hey, there's other ways to do this that are more
Right.
attainable to everyone. You know, you don't have to be a pro athlete. You don't have to be a spectacular
Yeah,
whatever, you know, to be able to achieve the
Mm.
American dream.
that is something. It's like, why emulate the players when you should emulate the owners?
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I tell all my people when I meet them, I'm like, listen, yeah, that $1 million check that he got was nice, but what's even nicer is being able
Yeah,
to write it.
exactly. Yeah, someone wrote
100%.
someone wrote that as a percentage of what they got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, that's throwaway money
Right.
for them.
Mhm.
100%. You've had TV debut as well.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
So
talking to an
I'm
actor
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. So I didn't even throw that
Oh,
in the resume, but
excuse me, sir.
it's funny, man. I've again, we initially connected for a reason, but like I've on the sideline, I've just kind of been a fan alongside of your journey, man. But can you talk a little bit about your TV, your actor? I don't know if we wanted to say actor, but talk about that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny where real estate can
Mhm.
take you, right? It happened totally by accident. I had a friend who I met through the military, actually. Um, they ended up staying in San
Mhm.
Antonio. After I retired, obviously, we were still in touch. So we're all from the same area here in Lee
Mhm.
County, you know, Southwest Florida. So she had a friend that was up in Connecticut that was looking for a place to
Yeah.
stay. And I happened to have a little Airbnb. So, you know, we're talking to this third party individual. Sadie's Pro Cleaning, if, you know, for those that want to know, Sadie's Pro Cleaning. So Sadie, I ended up talking to Sadie. She comes down with her people to film this. It's a crime scene cleaning business,
Oh well.
you know. So they come down here because they're filming in Florida for this crime scene
Mhm.
show. It's called Dirty Rotten Cleaners. It's on
Oh, I
A&E.
heard that.
Yeah, so it's a bugged out show. It's a bugged out show. So she comes down here. She was looking for a place to stay. She ended up renting my Airbnb. And while she was down here, there was some disagreements with her team members.
Mm.
So she ended up firing some of her team
Off the spot.
members.
I.
You know, and I'm not a small guy, so she's like, "Hey, would you like to come work with me and help me out on
That's
Oh,
what's
this?"
up.
the bouncer stat.
So I was like, "Sure, what does
Yeah.
it pay?" You know, because at the end of the day, it's about the
Hmm.
dollar, right, for
Yeah.
my time. So I ended up on this show, um, which was an experience within itself, man. We went to a house where you can literally see the outline of the body on the
Oh
love
wow.
seat that he sat
Oh,
in.
like on a daily.
It was crazy. No, you can like because he decomposed in that spot.
Wow.
That's how long that body was sitting there before they found him.
Gotcha.
Bro.
Yeah, it's bugged out, man. You got to watch it. I think it's one of the episodes. I My first appearance is on episode 3. I think I'm on like 2 or 3 episodes of that series, but it was fun. I tried to downplay who I was and how I was because I didn't want
Yeah.
to take the shine away from Sadie,
Yep.
who's really the star
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
show. But I had a great time. It was an experience. I got to meet a lot of cool
Yeah.
people. So it's just amazing. Like when you have a passion for something, you never know where it's going to
100%.
Oh,
take you.
facts.
100%. 100%.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things you said earlier, and I think me and Glenn have talked a lot about this, which is another one of those like houses on fire moments, is you talked about the circles that you run in and how that can truly change the trajectory of kind of where your life is headed or where you're headed, the books you're reading, the things you're listening to, stuff like that. Can you talk to us more about that? Like, how was that transition? Like, what were things that you were started doing to really change the circle that you were running in?
Mm.
Um, I don't know if I changed the circle that I was running in, but I definitely got rid of people in my
Yeah.
circle, and I started making sure that I started running in other circles.
Yeah.
So it's, and the reason I say it that way is because when I think about people in your circle, I'm thinking about people that you care about, that you love, that you would go to bat
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
for. So I don't have a lot of people in my circle like
Got it.
that. But when you think about people that you want to gain
Yeah.
knowledge from or you want to be
Mhm.
acquaintances with, I definitely try to be in the room with those individuals and try to make sure I'm taking as much knowledge away from them as I
Yeah.
can. Because one of the things that really stuck with me early on was if you're the smartest person in the
Yeah.
room, you're also the dumbest.
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
That was something I was telling Glenn about before we, started working together and working on the podcast. Is I remember the multiple conversations I had with one or two mentors of mine, and then like my girl, where I was just like, I need to find some better, not better, but like I need to find some circles that I can run in because the circles I'm in right now, I felt like that smartest person in the room, and I was like,
Wow.
and this, I know that's not good, but where I was kind of at, like the nature of where I am, it was a little hard to kind of find those circles, just like me still being in the military, living on base, things like that. And so, and like lo and behold, we had a reason to connect again, and
Mm-hmm.
then here we are, and the circles that now I'm not only running in with him, but also like my friends that I'm attracting who are trying to level up and be in that circle is like crazy. Spoken into
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
No, and that's really what it's all about, right? Is getting the people that you
Mm-hmm.
care
Mhm.
about to the level that they want to
Yeah.
achieve and the areas that they want to be in. And that's why I noticed that I had to start cutting some people loose
Yeah.
because they had no desire to level
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. That's true. I, I will say that I've noticed in my kind of different chapters in life. Same thing what you said, Dave. When it comes to like having to remove certain people in that particular season, like you'll be surprised on the trajectory of like of your life, right? The direction of where you can go and move forward. And there's not so much weight being held down. But I did want to ask you a question because you had mentioned Airbnbs as an investor. What got you interested in Airbnbs?
I'm always studying different
Mhm.
methods to optimize the income that I
Yeah.
get. At the time, Airbnb was on the come up. It was one of the hottest and best ways to make money, and a lot of money in a short period of time. They were really competing with hotels and
Mhm.
disrupting that whole
Yeah.
sector. Um, I have since moved on from that, but at the time, it was the smartest
Hmm.
route. So I'm constantly reading, researching, and trying to figure out what makes the most
Yeah.
sense. So depending on the goal or depending on what I'm trying to achieve in that
Mhm.
moment will determine the type of investment that I'm looking to get into or maybe improve
Okay.
Hmm.
upon. I mean, real estate is always my go-to. It's always what I'm
Mhm.
focused on. But the Airbnb now has so many regulations and so many stipulations that it makes it a little bit more
Mhm.
Yeah.
difficult and a little less
Hmm.
desirable. Um, but it's still a good money maker depending on where you're at. I mean, obviously, the more attractions you have in your
Hmm.
town, the more amenities that you're
Yeah.
offering, the higher rental rate you're going to have.
What are some of those like changes that you're talking about where it's become a little bit more difficult to run kind of an Airbnb business?
A lot of people don't like to have Airbnb or vacation rentals in their
I have heard
neighborhoods.
about that.
So, yeah, so if you have Airbnbs that are in HOA
Yeah.
communities or in condominiums, they really try to frown upon that because of the high turnaround rate that you
Yeah.
have. So a lot of places are now requiring a minimum of a 7 day
Mhm.
booking.
Mm.
So when they start changing the rules and regulations and they're requiring people to stay for a certain amount of time, obviously that's going to affect how your business was originally
Yeah.
structured. Because if your original structure was like, oh, I'm just going to capture these people that are going to, come into town for 2 or 3
Yeah.
days and head back out, well, now that plan is completely imploded.
So they can just like, so the HOAs can just like change the rules on you like that and just call it a day.
I mean, the HOAs are really there to
The
protect
community.
the exactly as a
Yeah.
whole. So if the community is coming together and they're saying, hey, we really don't like these people that are just coming in and out, and
For
understandably
sure.
so, because they don't get to know who that individual is. I mean, they could have somebody that's there, and obviously, I'm being extra
Oh,
when
of
I
course.
say this because Airbnb does a good job of vetting people as much as they
Yeah.
can. Um, but they don't know those individuals. They don't know they're safe
Yeah.
in that in that community anymore because there's people just coming in
Correct.
and out. And Airbnb can only do so much if somebody's using somebody else's ID to book
Yeah.
it. So there's a lot of things that go behind that. So I
Hmm.
understand why people are a little
Yeah.
leery about it.
Nefarious characters.
Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. And Karens run the world, so you got to be
Bruh.
careful.
I was gonna say it. I mean, like when we say the community, as far as HOAs, you mean
Yeah.
like the 5 people that
Yeah.
gather at those meetings that decide the fate of the
Yeah,
world.
exactly. The Karens and the
uh,
Kevins.
I wanted my name to be Kevin when I was growing up,
I'm
but I know
glad
what
it's
that
not.
says about me.
I'm glad it wasn't, man. We wouldn't be sitting here today. Nah, I have a question. When it comes to the black and brown community, right? There's a lot of people who may have a desire to be a real estate investor, but they don't have the startup capital or they don't have the financial means. Like, well, I guess one question is there a way to jump into real estate investing with no money?
Mhm.
And the other piece of that question is, if there is, like, what advice could you give, that individual who has a dream, but they don't have the funds to tap into that industry?
Those are great questions. Let me start by saying that if you have no money, then you better have a great, great knowledge of the market that
Gotcha.
you're in.
Mm.
Because if you don't know the ins and outs of the market that you're
Yeah.
in, what value are you bringing to the
Mhm.
Yeah.
table? I mean, I could hire anybody to be boots on
Right.
the ground. I could pay the realtor a little extra to be my eyes and
Right.
Mhm.
ears, so I don't really need somebody that doesn't bring any value to the
Mm.
Yeah.
table. But if you know your market inside and out, if you know where these distressed homes are, or an area that's, up and coming, and there's still really great deals in that area, then now you're bringing value.
Yeah.
Now I can see why I'm going to invest in something and give you a
Mhm.
portion of that. So that would be one. Really learn your market, really know the ins and outs. I shouldn't have any question about anything when it comes to the market
Mm.
that
Yeah.
you're in. If I'm going to flip the bill, I need to do all
Yeah.
of the
You
work.
need Jimmy who knows where people's mail's getting forwarded
Yeah.
to.
For real, seriously, you gotta have all that knowledge. So that's the one thing. If you have no
Mm.
money, um, and you're trying to use somebody else's money, now the thing about that is you can't get upset when you see how much they're making and you're making, in your opinion or in society's opinion,
Right.
Yeah.
pennies in comparison to,
Yeah.
but a lot of people, I think they misjudge the value of the lessons that they learn throughout that
Oh,
Right.
facts.
process. So I think that, to me, even if I don't get paid a
Mhm.
lot, I would still appreciate seeing the process from start to finish, because now that's something else that I have in my
Right.
repertoire. That's something else
Mhm.
that when I go to the next investor, I can say, oh, I know X,
Right.
Y,
Yeah.
Z. So now I'm more valuable.
Mhm.
So now I can get a little bit more percentage of that
Yep.
money. So that would be the thing I would say if you have no
Cool.
money. But honestly, even if you have $100, you can get started in real estate. the problem is that everybody thinks of real estate as, oh, I have to go buy this
Yeah.
house. Well, that's not
Mhm.
true. The fact of the matter is, you just have to somehow have a interest in that
Mhm.
house on some
Yeah.
level. And the easiest way to get interest in a house is a tax lien certificate. Because the county is not in the business of real
Yeah.
estate. And the community still needs their services. They need their roads
Yeah.
fixed. They need their parks cleaned. You still got to have the firemen, the ambulance, the police department. So the taxes still need to be
Yeah.
paid. So when a homeowner starts defaulting on their taxes, the county is actually offering their interest in that property to investors.
Yeah.
And these tax liens, you can pick them up, as I've seen them as low as $75.
Mm. Wow.
So someone got a house for
Yeah.
$75?
Not necessarily that they got a house for
Okay.
$75. They took over the county's position and interest in the property for $75.
Gotcha.
Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into
Yeah.
that. We're talking very high level here, but the gist of it is that if I have $75 in the bank,
Okay.
I'm earning less than 1%,
Yeah.
less than 0.1%
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But I can take that $75, invest it in a tax
Mhm.
lien. Now I'm making 18%.
Oh, I did hear about this. I have heard in that, like, and yep, I have heard this about, like, you can invest in the tax liens and then you get a certain percentage, but then, like, if the person ends up taking the money back, then, like, they pay you double of whatever you, or something like that, right? I know it's, yeah.
I mean, you're on the
Okay.
right track.
Oh,
So So since since you know a little bit about it, we're going to use you as an example. So
He
let's
likes when people
say,
call his name.
Say my name again. You know, that's the sweetest thing that people in your psychologically in your mind is your name.
yeah, people always light up when they hear themselves being called by their name. It's crazy, and I make it a point, like when I go out to
Yep.
restaurants or different events, to try to remember these people's
Exactly.
names. Even if it's just the simplest person, cleaning or whatever, I try to make sure I remember
Exactly.
their name for that same reason. But like I was saying, Cam, um, let's say that I defaulted on my home here in
Okay.
Florida, and you're doing your research. You know that the market is a good market to be in. The house has value, and you say, "Oh, I noticed that he hasn't paid his taxes for 2020." You're going to purchase the county's position. So you don't ever have to deal with me directly. You don't ever deal with the homeowner directly. You only deal with the county. Now, in the state of Florida, the annual percentage return on a tax lien is 18%. So you say, okay, hey, you know what? I like that property. It's only $1,000. I'm going to put my money over there. So you invest that 1,000. 2020 goes by, 2021 comes up. Now I owe the 2021 taxes. If I don't pay those taxes again, you have the opportunity to purchase that. Now I owe you 18% on the first one. And if you purchase this next one, I owe you 18% on that one as well. Now, and that's 18% every year.
Wow.
So that first one is now in its second year. So now on that first one, I owe you 36%.
Oh, so that's a compound, boy. Why we need to do?
You see what I'm saying?
The money talk.
Now, what happens is that after 3 years, on your first one, not even on the consecutive ones, on your very first one, the 2020 tax lien that you purchased, after 3 years here in 2023, if I have not paid you your initial investment plus interest, you have the right to foreclose on my property.
Wow.
I'm taking everybody's head off.
Now here's the crazy part. Let's assume that I took out a mortgage on it, because typically, if you take out an original mortgage, the taxes are
Correct.
included, right? But if my initial mortgage was paid off
Mhm.
and I decided to take out a second loan against my
Yeah.
property, well, now I have the option of paying my own
Yeah.
taxes. Okay. So let's say I decided that I wasn't going to pay my taxes. I still have that mortgage
Correct.
payment. Now you foreclosed on my property.
Yeah.
You get my property and
You
I
still got
keep
to
my
you still
mortgage
got to
payment.
pay the mortgage.
And I'm still stuck with that mortgage payment.
Wow.
So you have a property that could be worth, $200,000, $300,000, and you paid $30,000.
Wow.
Hell yeah, man.
We might have to do a class.
Yeah,
man.
we're gonna. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up on that note.
Yeah.
So Glenn always asks our guests towards the end of our episode, a very important question. So
yeah.
after
Before I ask this question though, like I said, I know you've done teachings out in the state of Florida. You know what I mean? So we may, not we may, we're gonna link up behind the scenes,
Yeah.
man, and talk about maybe doing some type of virtual class
Mhm.
or something like that. But anyway,
Masterclass.
so to all of our listeners, obviously David's been giving you guys a lot of gems on the surface level. So if you want to dive back more into it, definitely connect with them. But more importantly, we'll be connecting on something else.
Oh yeah.
We'll keep you guys updated with that. But David, it's funny calling you David too, because for 10, 15 years I've been calling him Sep. But anyway, so Sep, listen, life, love, or leadership. Pick one of those three, and share something that's maybe on your heart, on your mind, that you can kind of pass on to our listeners.
Wow. That's tough because all three of those are so important.
Oh, we
But
know.
I guess I would have to go with
Okay.
life, because it's so precious and it's so delicate, and so many of us take it for granted. We think that we're going to last forever, we're going to be here forever, and the fact of the matter is that the next 5 minutes you can lose somebody that you love, and it could be so unexpected. It could be, an accident that happens, a fluke in something that they ate. I mean, it's just so short, and then you blink and it's
Yeah.
gone. So I definitely think that we have to take a better position. We have to take time to look at our lives and be grateful for everything that we have, be grateful for everybody that we have in it, and just appreciate every moment of it.
Dope. I
I
love
like it. So as we wrap up, please let people know where they can find you.
I'm on most social media platforms. You can find me as CRE Dave. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, David Sepulveda, or CRE Dave is there as well. And come by, say hello. Let's talk real estate, whether we're talking tax liens or whether we're talking commercial real estate. I'm down for
Just gonna
whatever.
pop in on his doorstep. Hey, you told me to come by. You flew from California.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the L3 Perspective. David, brother, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, man. I'm glad that we actually were able to reconnect and have you just being able to pick your brain just a little bit. But guys, as David had mentioned, man, life, do not take it for granted, right? So invest in you, obviously be in place with your loved ones. And without that being said, you guys have a good day. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.